Assalamu alaikum everyone. Just have your attention please, we'll make a start inshallah. If there's any space, please, if the sisters and the brothers can budge at all, if not then no problem. Just tell the close the doors please, no more space. We'll make a start inshallah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His help and forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls or from our own bad deeds. Whoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no one worthy of worship but Allah, the one having no partner, and I bear witness that Muhammad is His slave and messenger. To proceed, again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being here. First and foremost, thank you for everyone taking the time out to be with us here today, inshallah, for the University of Bradford ISOC's first event of this semester. We hope you find the event a beneficial one, inshallah, and also we pray that everybody's exams went well as well, bi'idhnillah. Today, our dear speakers, our second speaker will be here shortly, inshallah, and our brothers, Alyas Karmani Jalal ibn will talk about the relationships between young Muslim men and women, and some of the challenges and problems that we face with regards to that, and how we can solve them, inshallah. Firstly, we will have Brother Alyas Karmani on my right here, who will talk about the challenges that we face, and then we will then we'll make a few announcements after Brother Alyas Karmani's talk, just to show you guys what we have in store for you for the rest of the semester, inshallah. And then we will have Brother Jalal ibn who will give us practical tips and solutions on how to avoid falling into the dangers and the sins, inshallah. Both our dear guests will have about 35 minutes for the first part of their talk, and at the end we'll have a question and answer session as well. So just to begin and introduce our dear brother Alyas Karmani, he was previously the head of race and equality of the Welsh Assembly government in 2004 and has over 20 years of work experience in the public sector across a range of policy-making areas, specializing in equality and diversity. He's an experienced academic with 6 years of experience as a researcher and a lecturer, both at Leeds and Bradford universities, in the Department of Social Policy. And currently he's a consultant for the West Yorkshire and London Probation Service in relation to resettlement and reintegration on young Muslim offenders. And he's got over 15 years of experience in relationship counselling as well. So without further ado, Brother Alyas Karmani.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Good evening. Welcome. Alhamdulillah. You know, normally when I do a lecture like this, and I'm doing a lecture tomorrow. I'm doing a talk in a school tomorrow actually, and I've done quite a few lectures this week. That's why my voice is not completely there at the moment. Normally one of the things I always ask at the beginning, just to get the level if people are motivated or are they focused, I ask the question, are you in the room? Yeah. Okay. And what I mean by it is a bit more that you're physically in the room, but are you really in the room? You know, it's one of the questions I always ask. And then when I ask it the second time, everyone scratches their head and they think, what do you mean? Of course we're in the room. But what I really mean by that, are you in this room, mind, body and soul? You know, are you really here? Are you focused on what we're about to talk about? Important life lessons. Lessons which really guide us in terms of what is our purpose. So are we here with the right objective? And you know, I've been doing lectures for 20 years. And you know, we're journeymen, we'll go to the far-flung corners of the UK. I've been to Aberdeen and Southampton and all kinds of places in between. And you know, I'll do a lecture on a subject, and I've got quite a broad portfolio of subjects that I talk about, whether it's talking about, you know, human rights in Islam, or in particular social justice in Islam. So my main area, as you know, I do a lot of work with young people, youth empowerment, working with young offenders. Yesterday I was at the conference, and this is how serious this subject is. I was at a conference yesterday on something called CSE, which means child sexual exploitation. And this was a national conference on these children who are pimped out. So this is a serious matter. So I do a lot of lectures, and sometimes, you know, a few people turn up. And I've got to say, I've never seen an attendance like this. You know what it tells me? Sex sells. That's what it tells me. Yeah? Sex, you know, I'll do a talk, social justice in Islam. I'll do a talk on, you know, how to find your habibi, yeah? Okay? How to find your beloved. And as you know, I run this course, people think I'm pushing boundaries, but it's not. It's not. It's something when we really understand what Islam is about. You know, Islam is ummatul wasit, we're between extremes. You know, I run this course, The Joy of Muslim Sex, Love and Intimacy. And it's a must if you're going to get married, or you're about to get married, or you've been married 50 years. I had it last Sunday, I did it, and there was a 63-year-old on the course. And I was thinking, what can I teach him, yeah? But anyway, look, there's something you can teach everyone, that's the point. There is something. And interestingly, Uncle came up to me and he asked me a question, I won't tell you what it is. I don't know why the lights have gone off there. Okay, you know, so look, sex is a very important thing, and you know, Islam isn't prudish about it. You know, obviously we recognise sex is more than just a physical act. I'm slightly modifying the talk because I realise I've been giving the complete wrong briefing, okay, for this particular audience. I've got to modify what I'm going to talk about. You know, it's a very important thing. It's one of those things which are integral to us as human beings. We've been given this nature, and it's a beautiful thing. There isn't many things that you get for free. I said, it doesn't come completely free, but you know that. But obviously, within Islam, you know, we don't take a prudish approach. We recognise that sex is a really important part of what we call the fulfilment of a human being. And Islam actually goes even further than that. It's quite amazing. In Islam, you know, sex between you know, is considered as sadaqah, which means a charitable act. And on occasion, the Prophet ﷺ, he said to his companions that, you know, they asked about charity. He said that the rich people have taken all the charity. And then he explained, you know, to glorify Allah, to praise Allah, to make dhikr on your tongue, to recite the blessings of Allah. This is charity. To smile at someone is a charity. You know, and then he says the act between a husband and a wife of enjoying sexual intercourse between two people is charity. The companions were quite amazed by this. And they said, are you saying that when we enjoy our wives, we are rewarded by Allah? And he says, yes. And remember the act between the husband and wife, both of them enjoying themselves. It's important here. You know, this is rewarded. This is something which Allah Ta'ala, okay, gives you reward for. And but the important caveat here, the important thing, and this is important, this is why this is really about, as much this talks about values and competing values in this over-sexualized society in which we're in. The competing values that we are being exposed to. Sex is wonderful, amazing, brilliant. And you know, what I call the synchronistic harmony of a husband and wife enjoying each other's company. Allah mentions it in the Quran. It creates that, you know, it elevates us to a spiritual plane. It's not just a physical act, it's a spiritual act. It's an emotional act, it's an act of bonding between two people. It's an act which obviously increases that, as Allah says, mawaddatan wa rahmah, love and mercy. Okay, however, most importantly, only within the confines of marriage. Allah Ta'ala makes it very clear. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't even come close to adultery, fornication, fahisha. And so Islam has and we make it very clear, and we're proud of this, it has a very strong moral code. And our moral code is about our values and who we are as human beings. And in particular, we believe in a very important principle: prevention is better than cure. We create an environment and society where we know what the nature of men and women is. And we know that we have sexual attraction and interpersonal attraction. We know this. This is a reality. However, we need boundaries, and we need clear boundaries. In order what? Allah wants to protect you. That's why. Allah wants to protect you from falling into what is inappropriate, degrading, immoral, psychologically disturbing, immoral in terms of from the social point of view. Allah wants to protect you and our society. This is the maqasid of the Sharia, the objectives of Islam: to protect your life, to protect your faith, to protect your sanity, to protect society, to protect our environment. So we are given clear boundaries. And that these boundaries enable us, as I said, Allah wants to protect you, and Allah wants to protect something really precious in you as well. And that precious thing that Allah Ta'ala wants to protect is your chastity and your values. Now, you know, I've grown up in this society, and I just want to give you, like I said, yesterday I was at a conference about a sexualized society, and about how it is that men who can get young girls, 12, 13, hooked on drugs, and then, you know, there's a term, it's called MAP, multiple person rape, MPR I should say, multiple person rape. So this is the bizarre, how is it that a society like this, a group of men think it's completely legitimate, a 12 and 13-year-old, to line up in a queue and to sexually abuse that person? How has that become a norm in this society? One of the reasons, and when we're talking about over-sexualized society, and in particular when we've looked at the young men and the research that I'm doing around young urban males and sexual violence at the moment, one of the reasons, a bit of a reality check here, one of the reasons is one, because they haven't got any sense of boundary, social, moral and legal. They haven't got any sense of humanity. They dehumanize that woman. They see her as just a piece of meat. They've objectified her. They see her as nothing other. They don't see her as awliya. They don't see her as a sister. They don't see her as a daughter. They see her as a piece of meat to be used and abused. And I'm talking about the guys here. I'm not talking about, obviously today I wasn't going to do this presentation. I'm not talking about people here who are, you could see, off their heads on drugs. People who are, you could say, dysfunctional, abnormal, pariahs in society. I'm talking about quite normal people. What does it take that a normal person? Okay, there's one case study I use. It's a young man called Bilal Khan, and he's dishonored the name Bilal. 13-year-old. He was in the media last year, youngest rapist in Britain. He raped a 20-year-old woman, he beat her up, raped her, and then obviously bragged and boasted amongst his friends of what he's done. And he thinks he's a rijal, he thinks he's a man. He thinks this is something which gives him a sense of masculinity. He's completely failed to understand what masculinity actually is. Masculinity is about, and we embody the Prophet ﷺ as the ultimate role model for us, is to provide protection, to be one who is emotionally supportive and caring of women. This is the code of Maru'a and Fatuwa in our Islam, which is about protecting and safeguarding those people who are vulnerable. And as the Prophet ﷺ, inviolable are the rights of two. Al-Imra wal-Yatim, the women and orphans, inviolable are the rights of two. And so, how is it society has ended up like this? That men and women don't understand boundaries. And they ignore the fact that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for you when He says, وَالْحَافِظُونَ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ, and protect and maintain your chastity and have honor and self-esteem about this. Protecting your virginity and chastity. This is really a badge of honor. This shows self-esteem, self-assuredness. But rather people want to give it up. Even when I was a young person, the socialization I'm having in this society, you got to lose your virginity as quick as possible. Lose your virginity. Give it up, pop your cherry, and all the other euphemisms associated with it. No, what is it? It's demeaning something so precious, so important, that act between a man and a woman for the first time in the confines of marriage, when they're given that guidance and support, which is, let me tell you, should be the most, at that point, the most phenomenal event in your life. On an emotional and interpersonal level. Yet it's been corrupted, tainted, and destroyed by this sexualized society, because we've got viruses in our mind in terms of what is a normal sexual relationship. You want to find your match, and really this is a day course in itself in terms of what the qualities that we need to develop in terms of finding our match. How do I know who the partner is that I want to choose? But as we choose that partner, especially for us young people, for young people like yourselves growing up here, it's an enormous challenge in this society. Okay, one, because we've got cultural baggage, we've got the virus of social media and popular media in society as well, which, obviously we're trying to maintain boundaries. We don't really know what it means to have those real qualities of what makes a loving and caring person. And as a result of that, this is unfortunately become something so fraught and so challenging to find that soulmate, find that person who makes you actualize. And look, I said, as a beauty in Islam, Now this is the beauty in Islam, as Allah says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهِ وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And from His signs, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is they created for the man his partner, so they live together in tranquility. So men and women are made for each other. They are complementary opposites. They perfectly complement one another. And this in itself, if you and I've done quite a bit of work on this, and it's one of the things that we do in the day course when we look at what I call the harmony between a husband and a wife. Men and women complement each other perfectly. Just to give you one idea in terms of, if you look at it in terms of the 5 senses. You know, the smell of a man and the smell of a woman, especially in an aroused state. You know, this is something which is a positive attraction between two people. Again, it just shows that I can go on and on, but I'm not gonna. But the point here is that, you know, we have, men and women have been created for one another, to live together in sakina, in tranquility, in harmony with one another. And that requires what we call safeguarding and protection. They're there to protect each other, to bring out excellence in each other. That's why this is such an important decision. And we've got to prevent all of the contaminants. And let me tell you, Valentine's Day is a contaminant. It's a contaminant coming up. Not just obviously clearly from the Islamic point of view for us, وَمَنْ تَشَابِهَ لِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ, whoever imitates the people is of them. But in itself, the value that is being portrayed, this is the day of lovers. No, rather, the Islamic model, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. You are a garment for her, she is a garment for you. Yani every day is a day for two people who are beloved to one another, who are striving for one objective, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be shields that protect each other from the hellfire, to achieve paradise. Every day. This is the most love that you show someone, that you want to save their life. That you're there to protect them. And as I said, I do a lot of relationship counseling, and people seem to fail to understand this fundamental role of marriage. You're there to protect each other. And sometimes we also forget another important point in marriage as well, that the man is not like the woman. Men and women's nature is profoundly different. The Prophet ﷺ understood the nature of women, the psychology of women, the understanding of women. And that's why he was able to nurture and empower his wives, so that they were the Ummahatul Mu'min, the leaders for mankind as well. And role models for both the men and the women. Empowered women because he understood their nature and their psychology. Today, relationship after relationship, I see and I come across where two people are disempowering each other, undermining each other, degrading each other, humiliating each other, and really paving the way for each of them to go to the hellfire rather than paradise. Because again, they must understood the fundamental purpose of marriage, that two people working with one objective, one purpose, to protect each other from hellfire, to achieve the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His paradise. And so for that reason, men and women, from that comes mawaddatan wa rahmah, love and mercy, as two people strive for the same thing. So Valentine's Day, I want to talk a bit, because I was asked to talk about, the challenges that we have in society. As I said, Allah wants to protect you. What you have is precious. What you have is precious. That chastity is so important. Maintaining those values that we have are so important. And as we know, this society, the contaminants in this society, especially with the nature of over-sexualized society, is that, as I said, we've been programmed that we have this sexual attraction. And so when this society, through porn, through over-sexualized society, through promiscuity, through all these different mediums, what it's trying to do is create that contamination. And in many ways, this is one of the most, one of the things that I work on is called porn addiction. And it's really interesting, people might think this is bizarre, but porn is one of the most addictive mediums that you will find. More addictive than certain Class A drugs. You might think that's quite amusing. It destroys people. The number of marriages that I know are destroyed by porn. And that's why I call it the P-bomb. Okay? The P-bomb. You know what it is? Look, it's not a joke. Someone told me about a village in Yemen. A really out of the way village. Really the 20th century hadn't even touched it, even on the 21st century. They hadn't. And as because of that, there was a conservatism there. There was sunnah there. They had akhlaq, they had real conduct. They had those values of haya and modesty. And haya comes from the word hayat, which means life. That a Muslim always is modest. It's the character of a Muslim. That Allah is aware of everything we're doing. So we have a sense of embarrassment before Rabbil Alameen. So they had these values. Then someone decided to get a satellite dish. And I'm not against modernity. It's not the point. I'm not against modernity here. There's good modernity and bad modernity. Okay? And he bought the satellite dish. So you're beamed in from thousands and thousands of channels all around the world. In particular, free porn. It completely changed the social fabric of that society. It disintegrated the morality of that society. They're exposed to something they've never been exposed to before. And they recognize that. And in fact, there was an interesting American general, and sometimes we seem to forget about this is a battle. Really, this is a battle for hearts and minds. It's a battle for values. And this is we have to watch out which side are we on. There was a general, an interesting general, he says we don't need to bomb Muslim countries. We don't need to send our cruise missiles, they cost quite a lot of money. All we need to do is send them Baywatch. Okay? The point is that, and some of you might not know what Baywatch is, you know, but it was a program, I think, in the 80s and 90s. Yeah? So we just need to send them Baywatch, because that will change the whole social fabric of that society. It affects the hearts and minds. And so, you know, in this over-sexualized society, the contaminants that we are being experienced to, we've got, again, this is why I say, the one who can stand up against these contaminants and say, I am proud that I'm maintaining my virginity for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I'm saving myself for that person who I marry, who will be, inshallah, my life partner, and that person saved himself for me. As I said, that experience between two people, okay, let me tell you, and I want you to look forward to this, you know, and without contamination, corruption, I hope, and inshallah, it will be the greatest experience of your life. One of the most phenomenal experiences of your life. And that's why, like I said, Allah Ta'ala wants to protect yourself. Don't make yourself cheap. Don't give it up. Don't just lose it because you want to lose it. And have that self-esteem to challenge the group think in society as well. As I said, shaitan, this is the way of shaitan. Allah Ta'ala, he enjoins upon us adl wal ihsan. In shaitan, he wants to enjoin upon us fahisha and munkar, sexual indecency. Because this is a way that, you know, this is the pathway for an individual completely degrading themselves. And again, like I said, this is something, okay, which is the weapon of shaitan. If you look at the weapons of shaitan in this matter, and then we have to say, what have we got? You know, shaitan's got alcohol, drugs. And this is the gateway. Alcohol and drugs, as we know, this is why, again, our moral code is one of prevention is better than cure. We know, Allah Ta'ala, he says in the Quran, there's some good in alcohol. There is some good in alcohol. But the evil of it, the munkar of it, outweighs any good that can possibly come from it. And this is the moral code of Islam. Prevention is better than cure. It's no point allowing something and letting the damage happen and then trying to then deal with the damage after. Don't even let the damage happen in the first place. Be aware of the consequences of your actions and the consequences of behavior in society. So we're conscious of that. And we're conscious as an individual. Me as an individual, my actions are not completely individual. If I'm alone by myself, it's between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as soon as I behave in society, it has a social impact. And I have a social responsibility. And look, if the Prophet ﷺ said there are 70 branches of Iman, the highest of which is the kalima la ilaha illallah, the lowest is removing a harmful object from the road. Now removing the harmful object, the concept behind that is this, that the Muslim is conscious of their environment and society. Our role in society, in terms of this is amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, enjoining good and forbidding evil. Maximize good, minimize harm. That's our role in society. So I have to be conscious of what I create in terms of a social ripple effect and consequences and how it affects other values in society. That's why it's so despicable when we see, and this is why, you know, I've been involved quite actively in challenging a lot of the street grooming that's going on, that's been perpetrated by gangs, people who have come from so-called Muslim backgrounds. You know, and again, there's still this sense of denial. We haven't got a problem in our community. We have a problem in our community. We have to accept that, and we have to. So shaitan, he's got alcohol and drugs. These reduce the inhibitions, which then increase the susceptibility to suggestion. How much date rape do we have? How much alcohol-induced violence, sexual violence is there out in there in society? How many times that, you know, individual, I collect these stories time and time again, that go individuals who have got no consciousness of what has happened the night before. And as I said, with regard to over-sexualization and sexual indecency in society, when we see the social impact, when we see the psychological impact, as a counsellor working with the mental health team here, the number of individuals I have with psychosexual problems, damaged damaged because they've been forced to become sexually active when they are not really mature enough to do so, or have been, like I said, abused as a result of that process. And the number of women that I work with who are in their 30-somethings, who are on the shelf. Sex in the City is a complete deception, by the way. It doesn't work like that. Okay, how many women are alone in their 30s and 40s and want to have children and can't have children? Such a large number of women who are unmarried, unable to secure a partner. And you know what? Those were the same women who were told in their teens and 20s, be sexually active. Have as many sexual partners as you want. Because why? And remember, this is misogyny. Men are forcing you to do this. Don't give it up. Rather say, no, I'm not going to fall for this particular line. Okay, and I'm going to increase my what I call asset value. You've got much more value as a human being. Someone who's given it up. And then those same men in their 30s and 40s, when they have what you call more disposable income and a greater ability to exercise choice, are they going for those 30, 40-something women? No, they're going for the 18, 20-year-old women. And they haven't got a concept of what it means to be a responsible man, bringing up a family unit, responsible for children and the maintenance and care of that family. الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ, as Allah says in the Quran, the man has the qawwam, this authoritative role of protecting, safeguarding, providing and establishing a good Muslim home. So this is the social impact. Thousands and thousands of women in British society alone. Unable to have a partner, unable to have a family, yearning for children in their 30s and 40s. Women are having children older and older in the mainstream, into their 40s. And I'm saying, this is what I'm saying, this is a battle for values. One social model against another social model, the Islamic social model. And we are socially conservative, and I'm proud to be socially conservative. These are the values that were the values of British society once upon a time. The values of not giving it up and having a sense of personal pride as a result of this. So the social impact of having thousands and thousands of women who are unable to have a partner for life. And then obviously everyone has a sexual need. You know, and in the same thing, this is we have this in the Muslim community to an extent, because a lot of our women, unfortunately, they get divorced in their 30s. And then we have this cultural thing that there's a stigma attached to a divorcee. It's nothing to do with the Sharia of Allah, it's to do with culture. And therefore, when someone becomes divorced, they can never get married again. And again, this is a complete failure to understand the holistic needs of a human being. Okay, women have, and this is why Islam gives women the right, conjugal rights, the right to have their sexual needs met within marriage. Because if women are unable to meet those needs, the social, psychological impact in terms of depression, and then in terms of the social consequence of promiscuous society, this is quite significant. Then there's the physical act and the medical, in terms of increases in STDs, so sexually transmitted diseases. And this is the prophetic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He says that when people increase in fahisha, indecent sexual conduct outside of marriage, and Islam is very consistent on this rule, any sex outside of marriage, premarital, extramarital sex, be it same sex or different sex, all of it haram. And also I'm going to talk about what it means in a minute. Okay, and as the Prophet said, when sexual indecency increases, fahisha increases, this never happened except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created diseases the likes of which have never been seen before. The likes of which have never been seen before. Whether it's HIV AIDS, whether it's new strains of gonorrhea and syphilis, new strains of chlamydia, all the time. And again, this is a physical reality in terms of Allah Ta'ala wants to protect you. Psychologically, socially, physically, and then most importantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to protect a very important institution which is completely disregarded in this society. Politicians are now paying lip service to it, but they don't really accept the reality of it, because as they say, the horse is bolted. And that is the family, the institution of family. The institution of a family. 2 parents, children, and a healthy environment in that home. Bringing up children, fulfilling your responsibility and amana with regards to those children, so those children grow up to become the next generation of just, moral, dignified human beings as well. And we don't see it. The last summer's riots are a fine example. Okay, yes, there was lots of analysis, and no one was actually talking about the analysis of the fact that this is partly to do with the disintegration of family and the value of family. Yesterday's conference I was talking about it, when I've seen a consistent trend in sex offenders and rapists, a consistent trend that they come from dysfunctional families where they have seen aggressive behavior between the husband and the wife, or the man and the woman. They grow up that, they have absent fathers, their fathers are not there, they haven't had a senior role model, male role model in their life, they've got no one to go to for advice and guidance upon these important human matters. So who's their educator? Their educator is the street, with their peer group, who themselves are often clueless. So, you know, I'm not going to tell you the stories. I'm not going to tell you the story. Or their educator is porn on the internet. And the trend of porn on the internet is this. And this is why I'm saying, you know, part of beating porn addiction is to recognize what porn is actually doing to you. It's not an innocent thing. It's changing your psychology. It's creating chemical pathways in your brain. It's desensitizing your heart. How is it that I work with individuals who watch 6 hours of porn non-stop all day long and they're not even aroused by it? That's called desensitization. That's a serious kind of psychological illness that an individual has. And the thing is, and with any kind of addiction, what happens is this. With any kind of addiction, you're not satisfied with that first hit. You want, because, you know, there's something called the law of diminishing return with every addiction. That means after the first hit, you will never get an experience like the first hit. I'm not encouraging anyone to go for a buzz on the first hit. Okay? And you need to know what the process is. And so what is, you want to chase that hit. I always say, who wants to go from driving a Ferrari to a Toyota? No one. No one wants to get back in the Ferrari. Okay, the point of the matter is, so you want to go back, and you'll go back, but then you won't get the same hit the second time round. So I need more of it. And it becomes a positive feedback cycle. And I need harder and harder. And again, in yesterday's conference we were talking about, and again, you know, it's interesting, this whole field is a field where there's lots of what is often described as guardian leading, okay, left of center kind of social worker types. It's really interesting. I was the only one bringing up the effect of degrading and humiliating pornography on the male mindset. I was the only one who brought that up in that conference yesterday. As porn gets harder and harder, okay, more extreme, sicker, and more degrading for women. And if that's the reference point for an individual, because he hasn't got a senior male role model in his life, because his father's absent. Sometimes in the Muslim family structure, you know what's happening? Is that the father is there, but he's still absent. Because he comes home and he says, okay, I've done my job now, I'll just sit down and do nothing. In fact, he's forgotten that he's ra'in. He is the one who has to fulfill this role of the leader of that home, educating, guiding, protecting, safeguarding, and ensuring that he's giving direction, inspiration, and motivation to all his family. He thinks, I've come home now, I'll sit down and I'll chill. I won't do anything. He's an absent father. And if he doesn't get his dinner, and wanting to go any further than that, an absence of that positive male role model. And also, brothers and sisters, you know, we've got this strange thing in our culture. This is a cultural thing, not an Islamic thing, because in Islam there's a principle, there's no shyness in seeking ilm. And so therefore, ask any question. The Prophet ﷺ invited every single question about every single matter, so that there was basira, insight, and knowledge conveyed through that matter. And so there's an interesting story where one of the, I won't mention that story, okay, maybe too risky for this particular audience. But again, how the Prophet ﷺ explained, no shyness in seeking knowledge. So these are the impacts of sexualized society. As I mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to protect you. And He wants to protect you from this. Prevention is better than cure. And that's why knowing what happens between men and women when they have unregulated and uncontrolled interaction with one another, we know what this leads to. And now that you're old, you're not going to be playing patty cake with one another. It don't happen. It's not patty cake anymore. Okay, it's, you know, and it leads, you know, and what it leads to. That's why Allah says in the Quran, He doesn't, in some parts of the Quran Allah says, وَلَا يَزْنُونَ, don't make zina. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather He says, وَلَا تَقْرِبُ الزِّنَا وَلَا تَقْرِبُ الْفَاحِشَةِ, don't even come qareeb or close to this. Always be aware Allah is watching over your action. Allah, and what is the consequence? Where will my action lead to? I have been programmed to be sexually attracted to the opposite sex. Where will it lead to when I just send her a poke on Facebook? Where will it lead to? Okay. You are engineering a series of events that will eventually go on to patty cake and then other things. The point is, you know, and that's why don't even go there. Like I said, these are the weapons of shaitan. Alcohol, drugs, porn, social media, the new technologies that we've had. We didn't have them in our day. So obviously we weren't as kind of influenced by, Allah Ta'ala, this has just been made so easy. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told us what is zina. He told us zina of the eyes. That is to look, to have the prolonged gaze. The man looking at the woman looking at the man. Because we know this is going to inflame the heart. We know what this is going to do to our desires. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, lower the gaze. Lower the gaze. And this is dignified for you. This is a sign, brothers, I've got to say, you want respect, you want a woman to respect you. I learned a lesson from my dad many, many years ago. My dad used to work on the buses, and he used to tell me when he was in the office. And bus drivers are kind of, you could say they're a bit rough kind of group of people, back in the day anyway. And he used to tell me that in the office, the secretaries were all female. It's going back in the 70s and 80s, so different world. And he used to tell me that, all the men used to come, all the sexually inappropriate comments to the secretaries, all the innuendo, all the flirtation, all the slapping of bottoms and pinchings and things like this. That's what it was like in the 70s. It was very different. We've got equality and diversity legislation now. So, and but my dad, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, he said, lesson he told me many years ago, he says, treat women like your sisters. He never, always had that appropriateness. And so all of them, they would say about my dad, they took him as a father figure. All of the women would do that. Brothers, if you want respect of women, then you honor women. And you safeguard and protect them. As the Prophet ﷺ said, the best of you in terms of akhlaq and a'mal are the ones who are best to nisa'ihim, best to the women. And verily I am the one who is best to women. You're following the example of the Prophet ﷺ. The one who thinks he's the man because he thinks he's giving it up. He's eyeing up the women. He's being flirty. He's flirting. He's got that posing kind of mentality. He's exuding that. Really, this is the one, and he claims that this is an expression of masculinity. No, rather, this isn't a sign of masculinity. It's that you fall into the trap and you don't want to protect yourself. You want honor, you want dignity, you want to know what it really means to be a man and masculine. Then control yourself and have discipline for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And earn the respect of a woman, because a woman will see you. That this is a man who truly respects women. This is a man who honors women. This is a man who isn't going to, when I marry him, you know what? This isn't a man who's going to have a roving eye. He ain't going to be looking at every woman going by. He ain't going to be clocking. And he ain't going to be doing that. Rather, he's the man, his eyes are for me. And you know what? My eyes are for him, because there's a mirror effect. When you behave in a particular way, you have action, reaction. This is one of the basics of relationship counseling. Action and reaction. When a woman sees her husband having a roving eye, this is the worst put down that you can do to a woman. This is a put down, which is saying what? That you aren't good enough to look at. When your eyes should only be for her. And this is why, one of the things which is lost is that ability for husband. And this is why the course that I do, obviously what it does is that it develops that understanding of how men and women can make each other inseparable for one another. I'm going to be married 20 years in April, and I've got to say it just gets better and better and better by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every year. She's in here, so she it does, by the grace. And I always say that if you understand relationships, if you understand it's hard work, and that you don't stop working hard at your relationship, then one of the things, it will improve everything, every aspect. There's loads of aspects. The spiritual aspect, the emotional aspect, the physical aspect, the sexual aspect, the practical aspect, every dimension of the marriage. As a general, should improve year in, year out, day in, day out. I can't wait to see my wife. Really, that's how it should be. So, and this can happen, it's not something which is, society doesn't tell us that you can achieve this, but this is what the guidance of our religion does. So lower the gaze. And this is the interesting thing, brothers and sisters, the weapon that we have is called hijab, and sometimes the term hijab is grossly misunderstood. Hijab doesn't mean a scarf a woman wears, a Muslim woman. That is not the hijab. Hijab is a code of conduct that both men and women have to observe. And before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed that He says, and tell the believing women to untie their khimar and cover their bodies and to wear their jilbab. Before Allah ta'ala says that in Surah An-Nur, 24 surah, in Ayah 31, before Allah ta'ala says that, before that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and tell the believing men to lower their gaze, protect their private parts and to guard their chastity. Tell the believing men to protect themselves. And then He says, Allah says, and tell the believing women to lower their gaze and to protect their private parts and etc. and then to cover themselves. Hijab is for both men and for women. It is a code of conduct. And it's a code of conduct based on the fact that we have and we maintain that formality in the relationship between men and women. I am not going to put myself in an environment where I know that I am vulnerable as a human. I am vulnerable in this situation. Don't even put yourself there. Don't even put yourself in a khalwa. Khalwa, it means what? Khalwa, it means when a man and woman are alone together. And let's not twist and do what we call Sharia gymnastics and say, well, the reason for me to do this in this situation. No. When a man and woman together, as we know, shaitan is the third. There's an interesting YouTube clip out there, and it's on campus, and they're asking this question. And it just shows you that the man is not like the woman. It's just, don't go fooling yourself and thinking that men and women are the same. You have different psychology, you have different biology. You have different, hormones going through your system, which defines who you are in the biological and the hormonal sense. So they did this thing. They asked 10 guys. Now, first they asked 10 women. They asked 10 women on campus, is it possible for a woman to have a platonic friendship with a man, i.e. non-sexual? And 8 out of 10 women said yes. We can have platonic friendships with men. They asked 10 men, can you have a platonic, non-sexual relationship with a woman? 9 out of 10 men, and I think the other one probably had a sexuality issue. 9 out of 10 men said, no, we cannot have relationships with women except it becomes sexual. Let me tell you what I mean by that. And this is it. The mere fact, brothers and sisters, and this, I'm being honest, I'm being straightforward with you. I like to deal with the real world and practicalities rather than abstract notions. Okay? Let me tell you, the mere fact that it goes in your mind, I don't like her, I ain't feeling her. The main fact that even that goes through your mind is saying, I wouldn't have sex with her. That's what you're saying. That is what you're saying. Because you're saying this is your reference point. That's your psychology. This is in the nature of an individual. So therefore, when sisters, you think that brother it's really friendly, it's dawah. We're talking about Islam and things like that. Alhamdulillah, it's good. It's good. But, it's not appropriate for us because we know what it leads to. We know what it will create an emotional bond between people. Now, let me tell you, when we do the marriage talk, and this is one of the most frequent questions that we have all of the time, a brother and sister will call me up and they will say, the simple thing they will say to me, we want to get married, okay? We want to be together, okay? And they'll say, but our parents, they don't allow us, they ain't going to allow us. And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of the Sharia issue, and I'll say, okay, I'll say to the brother and the sister, I'll say, okay, you've met each other without involving your families and things like this, and why can't you just walk away from each other? Just walk away. Just leave it, find someone else. I can't do it. Why? Because the emotions the hearts have already got attached. And when your hearts have got attached, you're no longer using your intellect to make a decision. You're using your emotions to make a decision. It's not going to be the most rational decision. And 5 or 6 years later, and I hate to say I told you so. I always hate to say that to a couple, and I don't. But I can see the writing on the wall. When people have made a decision based on emotion and because of vulnerability rather than intellect and in being what we call an informed decision in terms of the person I want to choose in my life. Because let me tell you, and I'm not being cynical here, when we're emotionally needy, sisters, the brothers are going to tell you everything you want to hear to make him feel like a lion. Really. They're going to tell you everything they want to hear. And likewise, brothers, sometimes you overlook, actually, these qualities are completely incompatible with the person that I want to live my life with. And so this is one of the fundamental failings that we find in marriage. People choose each other and they are incompatible with one another. Going back into the thread I began with, and I'm going to, inshallah, not take up Sheikh Jalal's time. La taqrabu zina, but 5 minutes ago. The zina of the eyes, lower the gaze. The zina, of the hands, which is obviously to touch a person of the other sex inappropriately. And the zina of the hands also includes typing on Facebook. I think we can include that as well. Okay, the zina of the ears. the zina of the ears, listening to indecency, immorality, the zina of the lisan, of the tongue, of speaking in a undignified, immoral and crude sexual manner. And this lagwa is far from the conduct of a Muslim. Speech which you know is inappropriate speech. Okay, and the zina of your mobile phone, the sexting which goes on now as well. And the Islamic version of the sexting, oh, we're not going to talk to each other, we're just going to text each other all night long. Hundreds and hundreds of texts in between. We'll just do that instead. You know, and you know, again, what will it lead to? What will it, you know, what is it inevitably going to lead to? So this is why Allah says, don't even come close. I'll be aware of the consequences and the impact of your action. So moderate yourself. And I'm not telling, and look, what I'm saying, I began with this, the joy of Muslim sex. I'm not saying we don't believe in celibacy in our religion. This deen and the beauty of Islam is always ummatul wasita. It is always the balance between every extreme going. So we have one extreme, celibacy and complete abstinence. It's haram. It's not allowed in Islam. It's a psychological problem. Allah has given us that nature. And we want to express that nature. And on the other extreme, promiscuous, permissive society. Give it up, anything goes. Over-sexualized society, and we see the corruption of that. Okay, you know, in society at the moment. And we're in the balance. The balance is this. Sex is a beautiful and wonderful thing, but only in the institution of marriage. Just want to finish off by talking about Valentine's Day. And this is an interesting, you know, this is our way, you know, look, the Prophet said, وَمَنْ تَشَابِهَا بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. Anyone who imitates the people is of them. Valentine's Day, obviously it's a Christian, you know, interestingly, it's not even a Christian festival. You know, it was actually removed from the Catholic diary, I think back in the, you know, about 20 or 30. So even they recognize that this is a practice that has nothing to do with faith. But you know, obviously Saint Valentine, you know, was as a saint of the Catholic Church once upon a time. But honestly, what is Valentine's Day actually about? What is it about? It's this idea of trying to reduce, again, your inhibitions. Putting it in a nice way. Because, you know, that's the nature of shaitan and the nature of suggestion in this society. They're going to give you a poison and mix it with honey. They make it look sweet to you and appealing to you. And when you're emotionally needy and vulnerable yourself, you think, oh, okay, let me just try this. And you know, I remember, you know, the days, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, you know, when you're brought up and you realize that, you know, this is our millah and this is our way, you know, then you realize that when you see the damage that it does to other people. I remember in school and university days, the amount of emotionally damaged people. I haven't got a Valentine's card. Or what's worse, I sent one to myself. Damage. No, look, it's a commercial festival. It's just there to make money out of you. And it's also distorting what real positive relationships are about. A day for lovers. No, in Islam, you are married to your beloved. When you're married to your beloved and you're working hard every day for each other, as the Prophet ﷺ did with his wives, when you're working hard, then every day is a day for the one you love. And I said, because you love that person, you have the greatest success and victory of paradise. That's what your beloved in this world, inshallah, Allah, we pray all of us, Ya Allah, unite us with our beloved in paradise. You know? So this is the object of every day. And look, this is what it means to love each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to love for others what you love for yourself. All of these things, you know, we talk about mahabbah in Islam. You know, we talk about, sometimes I always say that too many haters in the Muslim community, really, too many haters amongst us. Our deen is a deen of rahm, a deen of, Allah says, mawaddatan wa rahmah. That from that common platform, two people having one objective in life, comes love, comes mercy. You know, comes that harmony of two people completely intertwined with one another, working for one objective. So inshallah, don't believe the hype, don't fall into that. As I said, Jalal, I was saying at the beginning, you missed the point, that, you know, sex sells. Okay, I've never seen a lecture here like this. Look, let's take the same spirit that we have today and recognize, udkhulu fi silmi kafa. Enter into Islam completely. You know, brothers and sisters, this is an interesting subject to talk about, but also there's much more fundamental subjects that we need to have as much enthusiasm for as in our lives. And just finish on this point. Yes, Valentine's Day captures our imagination. Sometimes Judgment Day doesn't. Judgment Day hasn't captured your imagination. It's a day al-haqqa. So this is a day of certainty. You know, so let that capture your imagination. I hope I haven't offended anyone, inshallah. We're going to do the Joy of Muslim Sex course, inshallah, here. You're most welcome, inshallah, to come to it. I guarantee you it will be a eye-opening course, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Jazakallah khair to our dear Sheikh Alyas Karmani. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve you and increase you in knowledge. Just talking about relationships, you reminded me of something I heard one of the other brothers say quickly. This was a brother, a Sheikh Kamal Al-Makki from the USA. I was talking about relationships. It's a bit of a joke. If you could just allow me, please, I'd like to share with you guys. And the joke goes something like, there was this brother who accidentally dialed the wrong number. And incidentally, a sister picked up, a girl picked up, and judging by the voice, he thought, okay, this girl sounds a bit attractive, judging by the voice. So he goes, and they start talking to each other, hi, how you doing, this, that, the other, and they decide to meet up. He said, okay, would you like to meet up? Sheikh Alyas talking about what things lead to. So they decide to meet up. The guy goes, okay, meet me tomorrow, 12 o'clock at this juice bar place. So they decide to meet up 12 o'clock the next day. The brother goes a few minutes earlier. He goes so actually before this, the girl goes, so how am I going to recognize you if you come to this juice place? He said, I'll wear this and this, I'll just hold a glass of mango juice. I hold a glass of mango juice in my hand. Near the counter, you can recognize me this way. So the guy goes in 10 minutes earlier and he goes, have you got any mango juice? At reception goes, we've been busy, sorry, sold out mango juice. So he's like, oh, damn, what am I going to do now? So he goes, anything that looks orange like mango juice, have you got orange juice? He said, no, we've run out of orange juice as well. He goes, what am I going to do now? He goes, oh, we've got lemon juice left if you want. So I go, okay, give me the lemon juice. So he holds the lemon juice, 12 o'clock comes in his hand, and the girl walks in, and to his surprise, he thought, damn, she's ugly. So he goes, alhamdulillah that they didn't have any mango juice. So the girl comes close, she sees if there's anybody about, but there was nobody holding mango juice, but this guy was holding lemon juice, so she goes, are you Hassan? We spoke over the phone yesterday. She's like, no, he did bad. No, sorry, I don't know Hassan. I'm sure you're Hassan, you sound like him. She's like, no, I don't know any Hassan, honestly, I don't know Hassan. She's like, we spoke over the phone yesterday. So he's like, look woman, what's wrong with you? Does this look like mango juice to you?